Good morning, everyone. I hope that you're enjoying a wonderful day and are excited to begin what might become a new tradition, decorating the churches for Advent together. This is the last Sunday before Thanksgiving and is the last Sunday of the year in the church calendar. Next week, the beginning of Advent, marks a new year for the church. Traditionally, the last Sunday of the year is entitled Christ the King Sunday. Our passages for today lean us towards the reign of Christ as the head of everything. But before we get to the king stuff, I want to go back to traditions and Thanksgiving, because they are related in a major way. What are your Thanksgiving traditions? A friend of mine said that their traditions are centered around the 5 F's: faith, family, friends, food, and of course, football. He said those are the makings of a great day. And I would agree, for 2021, and really quite any day to celebrate those things would be pretty good. If you remember last year, we had very few of those things because of the pandemic. There were many people who stayed home and had smaller celebrations, if any. And the football was even played in empty stadiums. Our Thanksgiving celebrations today are nothing like the original day, or even when good old Abe Lincoln declared it a national holiday in 1863. Now, many of us know that the first Thanksgiving was nothing like what we learned as kids. In fact, about the only thing that is true is that the Wampanoag tribe and the Pilgrims were on the guest list. The Pilgrims came to this land because they were treated as serious nut jobs, religious fanatics in England, and everyone made fun of them. When they came with other European settlers, they brought with them diseases that killed millions of Native Americans. They stole their land and sold them into slavery back to Europe in a big part of the slave trade of the day. Now, the Puritans one day fired off some shots from their rifles and cannons to celebrate the day, and the Wampanoag became anxious because they had just declared a peace treaty and wanted to know what all the commotion was. So the Puritans invited them to sit and have some bird, but probably it was more like eel and mussels and fish, and the Wampanoag stayed for 3 days to party. In 1863, when Abe Lincoln was president, he declared Thanksgiving to be a national holiday. However, the United States was 2 years into the Civil War. The Battle of Gettysburg was fresh in their minds. For 3 days in just the previous July, in the hills of Pennsylvania, the Confederate forces had infiltrated the North. The plan was to get Philadelphia and then attack the capital in D.C. from the north and the south. Yet, the Union forces were able to not only hold the small territory known as Gettysburg, but they were able to drive them back south of the Mason-Dixon line. Yet Gettysburg was the bloodiest battle of the war. 10,000 men were killed and 30,000 were wounded. The hospital where the wounded were cared for was a Presbyterian church that was converted into a hospital. Sarah Josepha Hale wrote a letter to Lincoln in September of 1863, urging him to set a national holiday instead of each state doing their own thing. Lincoln writes in the proclamation, "In the midst of a civil war of unequaled magnitude and severity, which has sometimes seemed to foreign states to invite and to provoke their aggression, peace has been preserved with all nations, order has been maintained, the laws have been respected and obeyed, and harmony has prevailed everywhere except in the theater of military conflict. While that theater has been greatly contracted by the advancing armies and navies of the Union, needful diversions of wealth and of strength from the fields of peaceful industry to the national defense have not arrested the plow, the shuttle, or the ship. The axe has enlarged the borders of our settlements and the mines, as well of iron and coal as of the precious metals, have yielded even more abundantly than heretofore. Population has steadily increased, notwithstanding the waste that has been made in the camp, the siege and the battlefield, and the country, rejoicing in the consciousness of augmented strength and vigor, is permitted to expect continuance of years with large increase of freedom. No human counsel hath devised, nor hath any mortal hand worked out these great things. And he concludes this proclamation with this phrase: with humble penitence for our national perverseness and disobedience, commend to his tender care all those who have become widows, orphans, mourners, or sufferers in the lamentable civil strife in which we are unavoidably engaged, and fervently implore the imposition of the Almighty hand to heal the wounds of the nation, and to restore it as may be consistent with the divine purposes, to the full enjoyment of peace, harmony, tranquility, and union. It was a political move to rally the Union and leave the Confederate States without this holiday, and to portray them as the godless vermin. And I am sure that it boggles our minds to think that any politician would use God and God's providence as a tool to gain support in 2021. Which leads us to Pilate's question to Jesus at the end of the reading of the Gospel of John. What is the truth? What is the truth we live by today? Who influences the truth we believe? Where does our truth come from? I'm going to leave you to ponder that for a couple of hours as you go decorate the church and enjoy soup. Friends, it's halftime. See you in Brush Church.